Good day everyone. Today we're going to tackle the Unit 3 all about the performance assessments.
In this lesson, the students will be able to understand the meaning and nature of performance assessments, identifying the principles of performance assessment, and to perform a task that measures students' knowledge, skills, abilities, and authentic problems. However, assessment is a systematic process by which we assess the performance of the students. It helps collect data related to skills, knowledge, and attitude of the students. In addition, it helps improve students' performance. So in this lesson, the students will learn about performance assessment, which are a type of assessment that measure a student's knowledge, skills, and abilities through the completion of authentic tasks. The lesson also emphasizes that assessment is a systematic process that helps to collect data related to a student's skills, knowledge, and attitudes, and that it can be used to improve a student's performance. The learning objectives of this lesson in this class session, through reflective and collaborative learning, students are expected to do the following with at least 75% accuracy. A design and develop performance test using the goal, role, audience, situation, products, standards, or the graphs model. Next is to develop appropriate assessment rubrics or customize existing ones to fit the desired outcome.
Okay, before we proceed, let's have first an activity. This activity is entitled Guess Me. Okay, I will present different pictures here, and all you have to do is to guess whether or not it is a performance-based assessment. Okay, and give brief explanations with your answer. Okay, so good luck. Also, when planning for performance-based learning, keep in mind that the content and instruction does not have to change, but instead of assessing the students' knowledge from the content, the students is allowed to demonstrate what they have learned, okay, with proper preparation and planning. The instructor has full control over what the content is and how it is done. Okay, thank you so much for your participation. Now, what is performance assessment? Okay. Performance-based learning and performance-based assessment is a system of learning and assessment that allows students to demonstrate their knowledge and skills in a learning environment that embraces their higher order thinking skills as well as relating it or applying it to the real world situation. Okay, in this type of assessment, students will apply, perform, and demonstrate their knowledge in a certain situation or task, and with that a higher order thinking skills will be developed, and eventually they will apply it in a real world context. Okay, this type of learning is an ongoing process that allows student-centered learning and progress monitoring, where teacher and students collaborate and adjust their learning where needed. Okay, this is a student-centered, and at the same time, teacher will monitor, guide the students. So, it is the simplest terms of performance assessment or alternative assessment. Is one which requires students to demonstrate that they have mastered specific skills and competencies by performing or producing something. So, in the learning process where teacher discuss, demonstrate what would be the possible things nga ilahang pangbuhaton. So in this type of in this stage or in this phase, students will then apply or perform what they have learned from the discussion
When planning for performance-based learning, keep in mind that the content and instruction does not have to change, but instead of assessing the student's knowledge from the content, the student is allowed to demonstrate what they have learned with proper preparation and planning. The instructor has full control over what the content is and how is taught. And now we're going to discuss the types of performance assessments, including the solving problem, completing an inquiry, determining a position, demonstration task, developing exhibits, presentation task, and capstone performance.
In problem solving, it is the act of dividing a problem, determining the cause of the problem, identifying, prioritizing, and selecting alternatives for solutions, and implementing a solution. In other words, critical thinking and problem solving are important skills that needs to be sharpened and developed by the learners. So this means that problem solving is very important. We need to give an attention of what is the cause of the problem, which is the positive and negative impact on that certain issue, in order for us to develop our skills. Completing an inquiry, an approach to learning that involves a process of exploring the natural or material world, and that leads to asking questions, making discoveries, and testing those discoveries in the search for new understanding. An inquiry also task in which the students are asked to collect data in order to their understanding about a topic issue. So this means that we need to ask questions of what is the negative and positive impact on that issue for us to understand and to prove that this issue is very important and needs an attention by the students.
Okay, so determining a position. So in performance assessment, the task requires students to make decisions to clarify a person. So, like for example, a student is a reporter. So, mo na iyang position, no? Then, to clarify some questions nga or mga lesson nga na iyang gipang report is mangita siya ng person or students nga iyang pangutan-on to clarify a situation. So, muna, it requires students to make a decision or clarify a position. So, focus on an urgent issue that is not fully understood. So, ang student is murag may siya kanang a student nga reporter is mangita siya og student or person nga iyang pangutan-on, then to add a more knowledge or examples nga mahatag sa reporter. So next is the presentation task. So is an instructional event intended to communicate some information about planned tasks and to summarize the amount of work to be done. It is also a process of engaging the audience in understanding goals and objectives of the task. So, in performance assessment, magkuhan siya og like instructional materials, magbuhat ba siya og presentation in a PPT, no? Gina like kung mag-report ang usa ka student, then muna gamiton niya ang PPT through computers, then dira mapadali ang reporting through sa presentation nga gipakita sa usa ka reporter. Then this is a work or task performed in front of an audience. So for example, ang usa ka reporter is nag-report siya, no? Then nasa kanang gi-prepare nga PPT yung i-report atubangan sa mga audience nga maminaw niya. So muna kung nakay kanang presentation or nga gipakita sa tanan, then mas mapadali o mas masabtan sa mga maminaw ang imong gi-present dira sa tubangan. And usapon ni siya sa important nga tumaagi sa usa ka performance assessment. So lastly is the capstone performance. Capstone performance, capstone is often multifaceted, meaning there's a presentation or performance, a paper, and research that all come together to make the complete project. So three guys is for example, namoy laboratory experiment or inyong laboratory which is magninda mo sa inyong paninda is na report nga i-report sa usa ka members, then para mahibaw-an kung pila ang kita o giunsa ang outcome nga kanang kita sa usa ka sa inyong gipaninda, and kung unsay dagan sa inyong paninda or nalugi ba mo or nakaginansya ba. So mao na ipaagi siya og presentation performance, and which is ang all members kay i-tack in, like mag-meeting sila, then through research is kana mahibaw-an kung unsay mga problema o outcomes sa inyong gipaninda. And these are tasks that occur at the end of the program study. So dire in performance assessment, so diri mapakita kung in the end sa inyong pagpaninda is gather ang tanan, then mag-meeting mo kung masay dapat yung pambuhaton mo palambo pa ba, kung ang inyong gipaninda is kanang ni down na, then may bawaan din sa tanan kung unsay mga problema nga pwede nga usbon o mo increase ang inyong profit. Thank you.
And now let's proceed to demonstration task. So, it is teaching method that shows learners how to do a task using sequential instructions, with the end goal of having learners perform the task independently. These tasks show how the students use knowledge and skill complex well-defined complex tasks. So, a demonstration task is a type of performance assessment where an individual or a team is asked to carry out a specific task in front of an evaluator or an audience. The purpose of the demonstration task is to evaluate the individual's or team's ability to perform the task, as well as their communication skills, problem-solving skills, and ability to work under pressure. The evaluator may provide a feedback to the individual or team on their performance, which can be used to guide future learning and development. For example, a chef preparing a meal in front of a panel of judges who evaluate the quality of the meal, the chef's presentation skills, and their ability to work under pressure. So now let's move on to developing exhibits. So this refers to projects, presentations, or products through which students exhibit what they have learned, usually as a way of demonstrating whether and to what degree they have achieved expected learning standards or learning objectives. An exhibition is typically both a learning experience in itself and a means of evaluating academic progress and achievement. So, exhibits are visual presentations or displays that need little or no explanation from the creators. A developing exhibit, on the other hand, involves creating visual or interactive displays to showcase a particular topic or theme. Exhibits can be used in a variety of settings, such as museums, trade shows, and educational institutions to educate and engage audiences. For examples, an educational exhibit showcasing the science behind renewable energy, featuring the models, diagrams, and interactive displays to educate students and the general public on the topic.
Okay, so let's proceed the nature of performance assessment. In nature of performance assessment, there is a strengths and weaknesses. So, first is the strengths. It provides additional way for students to show that they know and can do. Students will be able to showcase that they can do more and better in a way that they can build up their self-esteem. Second, emphasis on reasoning skills. Students can think critically and practice their reasoning skills deeper to achieve and apply the higher order thinking skills, or what we call the HOTS. So next is more engaging, active involvement of student. The student environment will be more productive because their interactions will be more engaging and be more participative or active inside the classroom. This is a time to explore more and the preparation themselves in the future. Next is integrate assessment with instructions. Integrating a clear instructions lead to a better outcome and understanding to the students. They can easily to understand and work their task because of the clear instructions. Next is learning occurs during assessment. Learners' understanding will be measured or tested during the assessment. Teacher can determine if their teaching strategy was effective or not. And as a teacher, you need to make sure if they surely understand before you jump into another topic, so that you have a smooth discussion and also the student learnings. Next is provide opportunities for formative assessment. This is a great opportunity to provide the formative assessment for the students so that there is a good work in teacher and students inside the classroom. Next, it tends to be more authentic than other type of assessment. Authentic assessment is a type of assessment with a real-world context wherein students prepare themselves to be independent and building their self-esteem. This is an opportunity for them to be a productive learner and never afraid to try and do their best. A type of assessment that is more authentic because it is a learner-centered. Next is forces teachers to establish specific criteria to identify successful performance. The teachers forces to establish a specific criteria so that there is an accurate in grading a performance, and the teacher will be more creative and deepen more their thinking skills in creating a student's performance criteria. Next is encourage student self-assessment. Students are encouraged to do their self-assessment so that they can determine how they improve and what are the things that they need to improve. Self-assessment is very crucial to the students so that they can motivate themselves and congratulate for a job well done every day. Next is emphasis on application knowledge. The learnings and skills that they get have the emphasis on application knowledge in the future tasks in the real world and also an accurate usage. Next is encourage re-examination of instructional goals and purposes of schooling. Teachers need to re-examine themselves what is her role and purposes in teaching. In that way, she can have a dedication to be a good role model for her students and have the fighting spirit to teach and relay the information smoothly, and also the students' appreciation for their teachers. Students need their double effort to strive harder to achieve their goals and the purposes why they enroll the course. Sometimes not just students need to re-examine their purpose, but also the teacher. So next, let's proceed the weaknesses. So the first is difficult to plan for amount of time needed. In a performance assessment, students will find it difficult to plan, especially it is a time consuming and the given amount of time is not enough that lead to not a good output. So next is limited ability to generalize to a larger domain of knowledge. It is difficult for the teachers to create goals knowing that there are some students haven't that abilities rather. That is why teachers must plan a strategy to help that students to cope up. Next is requires considerable teachers' time to prepare and students' time to complete. Time is very important. That is why you need to manage it carefully. Teachers might hire them to complete their instructional materials or goals for the students, and also students might hire for them to complete the given task. That is why, as a teacher, before you plan and decide the performance assessment, make sure to have enough allotted time for the student also. So next is reliability may be difficult to establish. It is difficult to establish if there is no a strong foundation. Teacher must build a strong foundation so that her students will be independent and prepare herself for the future battle in the real world scenario. Next is measurements error due to subjective nature of the scoring may be significant. There is an error if you didn't use a criteria for scoring. It is not enough to grade based what you see and how you feel only. It will be cause a bias or unfair for the students' efforts who are following the set of criteria that you are given. Next one is that inconsistent student performance across the time may result in accurate conclusion. So again, it will result to a bias or unfair in the end if the teacher haven't a criteria to use in grading the students' performance assessment. So next is few samples of students' achievement. There might be a few students' achievement because some students didn't complete their tasks and some students completed. That is why there is a few achievement of students. So that's all for the nature of assessment, the strengths and the weaknesses.
Hello everyone, I am Jade Maika Torion, and today's session I will be going to tackle what is the purpose of assessment. So, do you remember the feeling of dread right before taking a test in school? Yes, I certainly can. Although this is a common experience among students, feelings of anxiety or ambivalence towards assessments do not have to be the norm. So one alternative to the traditional assessment is performance assessment. It is a method of assessment where students demonstrate their knowledge by constructing an answer, producing a product, or performing an activity. So when we say performance assessment, it allows students to play an active role in the assessment process, which experts have found increase their engagement and in turn enhances their learning. So assessment can be designed to the students choose their topic or select the best way to demonstrate their understanding. So many students find performance assessments appealing because it allows them to take ownership of their learning. But not only can students engage in the actual assessment, they can collaborate with teachers too. So the purpose of performance assessment is first, performance assessment can engage and pique the interest of a student. So we already know that the performance assessment is very engaging and towards the students. And second, performance assessment can be accurate indicators of what students know and whether they can use their knowledge. So in this performance assessment is really helpful toward the students because this they can give their information or ideas. They can share their opinions and their knowledge, towards performance assessment. So next is performance assessment can increase instructor confidence by allowing them to evaluate lesson plan effectiveness. So this is very also useful to the instructor to evaluate the lesson plan effectiveness so they can use different strategies to make collaborate to the students and more engaging. And lastly, the purpose of performance assessment is the task can identify how well an instructor is teaching and provide progress reports for students learning. So they can evaluate the progress of the students towards the evaluation or towards the performance-based assessment. So therefore, performance-based assessment is very useful for giving
So, there are principles of performance assessment. First is the clear standard and criteria. So, criteria means particular requirements that someone or something must meet in order to be considered or qualify for something. And also, the standards means that determining what a thing should be or what the student should possess in their chosen or given assessment. So, in clear standards and criteria is that you as a teacher or the facilitator must give to your students clear standards and criteria in order for them to be aware on what they are going to do to achieve the standards of you or to the facilitator that is given. Second is the validity and the reliability. So, validity refers on how will the assessment instrument measures what is intended to be measured. And also, the reliability also refers to the consistent result over time. So, this also refers on which an assessment method or the instrument that the student use to measure the consistency that the performance or the outcome of the students. Next is the multiple measures. So, in multiple measures, this is the use of more than one assessment in order to assess the students' abilities on what they learn. So, on what they learn or how they learn. So, the use of multiple indicators to measure the students' learning this also includes not just the student learning but also the perceptions and the school process as well.
Fairness and equity. The term equity refers to fairness and justice and is distinguished from equality. Whereas equality means providing the same to all, equity means recognizing that we do not all start from the same place and must acknowledge and make adjustments to imbalances. Next, ongoing feedback. Ongoing feedback can be defined as consistent feedback exchange between the manager and the employee that integrates discussions based on company or employee goals, problem areas, as well as areas of improvement. The last one is continuous improvement. Continuous improvement, sometimes called continual improvement, is the ongoing improvement of products, services, or processes through incremental and breakthrough improvements. These efforts can seek incremental improvement over time or breakthrough improvement all at once.
Before we will end our discussion, let's do a little recap on our topic for today. We talk about the performance assessment. So what is performance assessment? So performance assessment is an assessment that allows students to demonstrate their knowledge and skills in a learning environment. So it involves demonstration and performing in front of the class. It consists of 7 types of performance assessment, which is the solving the problem, completing an inquiry, determining a position, demonstration task, developing an exhibit, presentation task, and lastly, the capstone performance. So, nature of performance assessment, which is the strength and weaknesses of the performance assessment. And the performance assessment has a purpose. One of these is to engage and pique the interest of the students. And here are the principles of the performance assessment. The first one is the clear standard and criteria. It is to understand and communicate clearly. The second one is the validity and reliability, which is accurate to measure. The third one is the multiple measures to evaluate the students' different abilities and skills. The fourth one is the fairness and equity, which assists the same standards and criteria. The fifth one is the ongoing feedback that need to track the progress and make improvements on the students. And the last one is the continuous improvement. And those are the things that you need to know and you need to remember in our topic for today, which is the performance assessment. Thank you and have fun.